There it is. Well, good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of Drive Facebook Live. I'm your host, Bob Spitz, with my partner, Tony Wisler. And we're doing a solo show today, aren't we, Tony?
Yes, we are. No guest. We like to call these special shows like subject-driven shows or
Or the
theme
Tony and
shows,
Bob Show?
or the Tony and Bob Show, which is a great name. I'll pose that to the people, to our crew, and see if they want to change the name of the show.
Yeah, like the old Ken and Bob Show in L.A.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
the Tony and Bob Show.
That's right.
Yeah. So we've got kind of a special month going on here, don't we, Tony? March.
We do. We do. This month, it is absolutely the theme of this month is leadership. And there's going to be a lot of fun things happening with leadership. And we'll talk about some of them as we go throughout the show. Um, but it's that's the subject,
That's the
leadership.
theme. It's like having a theme album, Tony.
That's right. That's right.
We
It's a concept album.
It's a
That's right.
concept album. That's right. We have a concept month, and it is leadership. Yeah, Tony, we've identified 12 characteristics that all good leaders have.
Yep.
Now, we're not going to have time to go through all 12 of these this afternoon, but that's okay because, as you said, there's going to be other events, talks, webinars, workshops throughout the month that is going to cover this vitally important subject of leadership. But I would like to just rattle off the 12 characteristics of good leadership. Now, this is not in order of importance. It's just this is what we've identified. And the first of these is self-awareness. And we'll go over some of these in more depth as we go through this. Then respect.
Yep.
Then we have compassion, which I think is a very important one. Vision, probably the most important one.
I
But
would say
once
so.
again, this is not in any order of importance. It's just my opinion.
Right.
Communication, learning agility, very important. Collaboration, being willing to collaborate, unless you're just completely authoritarian and you
Right.
don't care what anybody thinks. Influence, integrity, vital. Courage, gratitude, and resilience.
Yeah.
Those are 12 of the key characteristics of good leadership.
Hmm.
And the great leaders, they have these. You look
Right.
out throughout history and you can spot these in those people. And this is a big subject, Tony. And you go to any bookstore, if there's any bookstores left, and there'd be whole sections on leadership.
Yeah. Well, the thing I like is that one of the things about leadership that you can tell if when you study it, you just go, let's just be honest. We've all had leaders that we had to follow. Some of us have been leaders and that people have followed us, and very often in our lives there's somebody who's a leader who we follow. And if you start like thinking about these categories more specifically, you'll remember someone like possibly like when you said vision, maybe somebody thought, yeah, that's like my boss from like 5 years ago when I worked at such, or a great teacher I had, or when I was in for me, it'd be like when I was in a really good band and I had a great band leader.
Yeah.
You know,
And the
that,
reason,
mm,
you bring up vision and why I thought it's probably one of the most important points is when you're leading or leadership, you're leading somewhere. Well, where
right,
is that somewhere?
right. If you're going to lead people, you got to lead them to a place.
That's right. And
Yeah.
so that's where vision comes in.
Hmm.
What is your vision?
Yep, I totally agree. And it's to me, I'll say, so again, this is just my opinion, but I think that the vision is the thing that has to occur before anything else can get into place. They're all this just as important, but there is something a little like sequential about the time of it, right? Like you gotta, if you don't have a vision, I'm not even sure. My question would be, why are you even being a leader at this point if you don't even have some form of a vision that you can take
Right.
a group on a journey with. But that's just my thinking on it. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that. Actually, I was going to say, if you're watching live and you want to throw out some ideas, or like sometimes you've had some experiences like this, feel free to just do it in the chat, because we're keeping an eye on the chat and we'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah. And one of the things that we have, and I don't know how many people avail themselves of it, is Drive has got a great blog because we have some wonderful writers in the Drive group, and there's some of this wonderful leadership content can be found on the Drive blog. So be sure to avail yourself of that. But
Absolutely.
getting back to vision, yeah, you look through history and go, Alexander the Great, what was his vision? Well, to conquer the world, just like
That's right.
Pinky and the Brain.
What are we going to do this time, Brain?
We're going to
Same thing we
conquer the
do every
world.
night.
That's right.
Same thing we do every night.
But there's another key point in this, and this has to do with legacy and generational businesses, and that is the founder of that business had a vision. Otherwise, it wouldn't have flourished and it wouldn't have achieved whatever it does achieve. But if the handoff and the succession of that to the next person does not share in that vision, well, then you've got a bit of a problem, right?
Yes,
So that's
yes.
why vision is so crucial.
Hmm.
Uh, that if you have a shop and you've done a great job and you're thinking of passing it off to the next generation, and because you want to maintain ownership, you want to maintain it in the family, well, that vision has got to be shared and it's got to be agreed upon. You got to get that buy-in that, yeah, this is my vision for this, and do you agree?
Right. And if it's a succession situation, you got like the youth or the child or the whoever the person is, they might have their own vision. I've worked with shops where the succession plan was to sell the shop to the service advisor, and there was a vision that the owner had that was incredibly successful. And the service advisor was thinking every day that he might not totally agree with all the details of how this person was going about doing that, running their business. And in the back of his mind, he was thinking like a little bit, boy, when I own this place, I'm going to do things differently. And that can build over years. And then what happens when that succession happens is you get a service advisor who goes, yeah, this is a very successful business. Let me change everything. which, which, might not be the right move, but boy, oh boy, when they grab it and they start changing everything, and then they realize, wow, I should have just, what is the greatest thing you can do with it when it comes to the succession? Keep everything the same. So, and the vision was there. They knew what was happening. It was working. So that's where you go, yeah, I'm just going to keep doing what, Bob did, or, Jim did, or whoever it
Or dad
was.
did, or
Dad did. Exactly.
yeah.
And
Now you bring up a good point though, because as time evolves, so does technology evolve. So if you can maintain the vision but adopt new technology to help you more efficiently achieve that vision, well, that's absolutely vital because management
right.
can't get stuck in the old. They've got to constantly be keeping a fresh look of the business and keep the pattern of the business fresh without altering the vision of the business.
Right, which is the power of the vision, because the vision is so all encompassing and so fundamental in a way that the details, as long as the vision stays solid, the details can change. It's when you have someone who decides that they want to just change the whole entire operation just for the sake of change. But when the vision is really defined, they can say, "Hey, this is like some new thing comes out, like a new technology or some new idea." Well, you can just check that against the vision, and as long as the vision is true and you're sticking with the vision, then go ahead and implement it. Like if you got to get, like, I'm sure that somebody decided to get a DVI into their shop and it doesn't violate the vision of the shop. Like, I'm sure that the owner in 1975 wasn't like, if they ever come out with any technology that's on a computer, we're not going to use it. That's part of my
Right.
dream. That's my dream. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? So as long as the vision's there, then y-
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah, well, we kind of kicked that one around. That's one of the 12. What's another one you'd like to talk about, Tony? How about self-awareness? I think that's an interesting one.
That's one of my faves. That is one of my favorites for sure because it has everything to do. It's the one thing I think that a owner can be the most in control of, right? Like obviously the vision too, but the vision is a future thing and you go, well, you want the future to be a certain way and you try your best to make that happen. But self-awareness is something you can completely be in control of. And that's why I think it's a powerful one as well, you know. And what do we
Yeah,
mean
you,
by that?
you got to be honest with yourself. You got to be aware of yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And, something that I've always noticed about great executives, great leaders, is they surround themselves with very able people
Hmm.
because you can't do it all yourself.
Right. Right. And
Well, at
then you
least
have
that's
to
the
have,
self-awareness point that you have to have is that if I'm going to grow this business and it's going to be everything that I can envision, well, I'm going to have to surround myself with great people who are going to have strengths that are greater than mine in different areas. And that's got to be okay.
right. And you have to have faith that the people that are on your team are going to do what you want them to do and and you have to like it. A lot of I've seen some shop owners who have have ran their shops as like one man bands for so long that they just have a really difficult time trusting that anyone else can do the job. What is that old adage that's completely incorrect, but somehow rackets down through the ages? Is that if you want a job done right, you have to do it yourself.
Oh yeah,
I've never heard a more incorrect, maxim in my entire life than that one,
that's absolutely right.
and yet they still feel that way. If you want it done right, you got to do it yourself.
All
And
right,
my
good job.
answer is, and my thing is, if you want it done right, you have to train someone to do it right.
Yeah, then you'll end up being, the trustee in the tool room all alone, and
Yeah,
making yourself right. I was right.
I was right, exactly. And so yeah, so that's one you want to like. That one I just say I always tell people who are running their own businesses and wanting to build it and expand it and grow it is that idea, just delete that out of your mind. It's just
Yeah.
not true. You have
Well,
to have
what it
you got
also
to
tells me
delegate.
though, when I hear that is they're not good at training,
Right. That's what it is. It's just they don't
right?
have the skill. They haven't learned the skill to
Train
delegate
that next generation.
and train the people to do it. And again, if you're again, but there that what does it take to know that that's the truth? Well, how would they know that? I mean, we could tell them, but if someone's listening right now and they're going, well, that's not me. Okay, maybe it's not you, but if it is you and you say it's not you, what does that go back to? It goes back to
Self-awareness.
self-awareness.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, by the way, our guest next week is watching. Want to do a shout out to Mark Granum.
Yes, Mobile Mark, my good friend Mobile Mark. He's going to be on the show with us. We're going to talk about leadership with him too. He's got a
Yeah, because he's
great,
got quite a crew, and
yep. He,
yeah,
he'll be on next Friday,
yeah.
and he does have a pretty large crew, and he's got a pretty big shop in Florida, and so that'll be enjoyable. That'll be a lot of fun.
And my
So
old friend Dave Jennerjohn is watching. Hey, Dave,
love
is
Dave.
it time to get the boat out? Get some salmon fishing done? Might still be
Yeah,
a little early. I'm not sure when is the best time to go. And Chris is
Chris
watching.
Probst. Yeah, she's one
Hey,
of our
Chris.
instructors here. She's also runs a shop in Colorado. She's in Crestmore, which is a suburb of Denver. She runs a shop there,
Yeah, and she
and she's
recently conducted a workshop for our good partners O'Reilly.
yeah, she did.
I hear she knocked it out of the park. Well done, Chris.
She is a great instructor. If you get an opportunity to do the financial workshops with her, you should because she's really great. She's one
Yeah,
of my favorite people in the world. She flew to Wichita and did an O'Reilly's there, and I heard it went really well. So
yeah.
shout out to my friend Chris.
All right. Another key point, characteristic of all good leaders is communication,
Yes.
which is one of the greatest misunderstood concepts in the world. I don't remember quite who said it. It goes, the problem is we think communication occurred.
Exactly, exactly. And I got to tell you, the thing that about communication that I find interesting is whenever you talk about communication, everyone's mind instantly goes to technology. Like they go, oh, a phone, or oh, intercom system in my shop, or oh, an email system, or it's always about the technology of communication. And
You mean the methods to communicate?
Right. The vehicle on which communication travels. But
Hmm.
no one ever thinks about communication, most people don't anyway, about communication as a thing itself. Like they just assume, like so many things in the world, they just assume that it's just communication happens, or you don't, there's nothing to learn or to know about communication itself, right? Like if I said to a shop, you need to improve your communications within your shop, they would immediately think, well, do we got to get another system in place, like an intercom system, or we're going to use our phones or something. And the thing I like about communication is the simple idea that if you've got an idea and you want someone else to have it, something's got to happen. And
That's
maybe,
right.
and they have to get it. And you wonder how many times a human being will say something and then the other person didn't get it, or they misunderstood it, or they didn't understand it.
Yeah. And there are very key exact points to making a communication occur.
Hmm.
And these are well covered in our Getting Your Point Across workshop.
Absolutely.
For those who have done it, they know it. But if you've never done that workshop, I strongly advise you to do it if you want to understand communication better and be better at it. What one of the key points of communication, Tony, that is, I think, a practice skill, especially for most guys, and that's listening.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And of course, yeah, don't ask my wife how well I do that these
I
days.
find that women tend to be better listeners than men. I don't know
Yep,
why. Maybe because we already know everything, and why do we need to listen to anybody else?
exactly,
I can see Carolyn rolling her eyes now.
exactly. Uh, but yeah, I think you're right. And people, and again, that's another thing too. So they think of the technology, but then they go, okay, well then I can say something. Okay, so what is communicating? They say, oh, it's saying stuff. Well, if
It's
you,
talking.
it's talking, right?
Yeah.
And what you just said is exactly the point, that it's not just talking. It's not,
No,
it's not. It's only half of it is talking.
no,
The other half is listening.
that's right, because it's an interchange of ideas.
That's right.
So it's fine to have a vision, but if you don't know how to communicate that vision in such a way to get buy-in from your team, well, that vision is going to kind of die in the darkness.
Yep. And you'll never get buy-in if you can't listen. If you can't listen to your team and understand what they're telling you and care about their concerns, which is part of it. Like you're not just listening. Like you go, okay, I heard what you said and it's not good, or like I heard what you said and I did, it's like listening to what they have to say and caring about their concerns is such a powerful part of leadership. And that's part of that communication. You care about their concerns, you listen to what they have to say, and then you make your decisions accordingly,
That's right.
right?
Because
That's
caring is key to leadership. It's
very, very
You got
much.
to care about the business, you got to care about the team, you got to obviously care about your customer base.
Hmm.
I used to talk about this at the seminar. Without the customers, there's no purpose for the business, and without the business, there's no purpose for the team. So management and owners and leaders, they've got to have a very high care factor, which ties into one of our next points in our characteristics, and that's compassion.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to have some degree of compassion. And the leaders that I've ever worked with, that was an important element because I could tell that they cared and that they were compassionate about what was going on. And I have worked for some people who were not that way, that were not compassionate at all. And when that happens, if you're that type of character, that have that personality trait, it's something you can build. You can work on it. You might not be a naturally compassionate person, but if you're thinking about it, then you can remember to try to be that way. And I've worked with some people who are not compassionate at all. And the one common thing that can occur with that kind of person is that people won't stick around.
No, no, it's very hard to build a team if you're not compassionate and enthusiastic about what you're doing, so that you can share that and you can get people to see your vision and they can see how compassionate you are about what you're doing.
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and just leading everybody towards that vision of yours.
That's right.
So yeah, you got to be compassionate about it. You got to kind of start every day in business like it's your first day in business.
And maintain that enthusiasm.
That's right. Yeah, because I've worked with lots and lots of shop owners over the past 30 years. And when I see someone no longer having compassion for the business, I usually suspect that either they have a goal that was thwarted, they didn't
Hmm.
achieve a goal, or they did achieve a goal and they didn't set a new one.
Right. They've satiated that desire to fix that thing or get to that point, and now they're not playing anymore. That's kind of what it is. They've just bailed. They've just stepped out of the game, basically.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, compassion is vital to being able to do that.
Hmm.
And and I think that also ties very much into our next point here, Tony, and that's integrity.
Mm, I agree. I think it flows there. It's kind of interesting how, as we talk about these things, how you can see how they naturally flow from one to the other, which is actually
Yeah,
really
how they are
interesting.
related.
Right. Exactly. And
Yeah.
and like you were saying when we were talking earlier, that integrity is that having the courage to know what is right and do the right thing, even in the face of resistance, like or someone saying that it's not right. Yeah, and the people that I know that have the highest levels of integrity are very confident about their choices and what they know to be right, and they don't come off of it.
Yeah. Because we're not just talking about integrity as far as honesty or something like that. We're talking about holding your own position,
Hmm.
having faith in yourself. And you mentioned faith earlier, having faith in your own abilities and not let other people shake you off of what you know you need to do and the direction that you're going in. Yeah, absolutely. You have to be self-aware and correct yourself as you go along, but you do have to be able to hold that position and have that integrity in what you know. What you know
Right.
is what you know, and you've got to stick to that. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of those vital points, integrity.
I totally agree, but I would also say that on integrity there is that other point too, and those two segments or subcategories of integrity are so vital. The one we just talked about, but also the idea of just genuinely having very honest best practices. And I know that it can be very tempting for businesses. I've ran a few businesses that were struggling, and it can be very tempting to cut corners or to maybe do something that goes against your own moral code because you're trying to make sure your kids get fed or something, and you do stuff. And I'm telling you, the thing to understand is there are real solutions to growing the business and having prosperity that don't include doing things that you're going to be ashamed of. And if you stick within your own code of ethics and maintain that integrity to maintain that code of ethics, then everything will work out. But if you go down that other path, it's like a Star Wars story or something. What are
Yeah,
you going to
yeah,
do?
and you bring up a good point, and a simple example of that is bending to a customer's wishes. A customer wants you to do something to their vehicle, and you know this is not the right thing to do,
Mm,
right?
exactly.
And they say, but I can't afford that other thing. And instead of turning away the job or figuring out some financial alternative for them, you do something that you know is not the right thing to do.
Right. And
And
that's harmful.
that weakens your integrity right there.
Hmm. It's
Is not sticking to your guns on things that you know is the right way to go. And technicians run into this all the time. They have to maintain their integrity. Service advisors have got to maintain their integrity.
absolutely.
Everybody in the business has got to maintain their integrity. And anytime you feel like, and this is where coaching comes in handy, Tony,
Yeah,
is, the wonderful thing, and we joke about this all the time, the wonderful thing about owning your own business is there's no one there to tell you what to do. And the horrible thing is there's no one there to tell you what to do.
that's right.
And you can feel very alone out there in the field. And it's great to have at the other end of the phone call someone who can really listen to you, who you can say, I did something the other day and boy, I don't feel good about it. Just to be able to get that off your chest and listen to someone and have them help steer you back onto that path that you need to be on to reach your vision.
That's right. And the other thing too is when you have somebody that you can throw ideas off of, even if you're considering doing something that might not be completely aligned with your code or your integrity, that person will be it'll come to light very quickly if they're on the other side, like a coach. That's why coaching is so powerful because it's not one person trying to solve a problem. It's two people trying to solve a problem.
Right.
And so those two people work together to solve that problem. And if you have two people coming up with bright ideas to solve that problem, probably it'll be and the coach, particularly with drive, uh, if you have a drive coach, they're going to make sure that you walk the straight and narrow and you do the ethical thing.
Absolutely.
That is so built into our culture here that it's just about doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And
Just do it right.
yeah,
Because you know
exactly.
the other thing you mentioned, having a drive coach. Well, it's not just one person. You're
Right.
now talking to a team
Hmm.
with 30 years of experience.
Yep.
And I think Martha recently counted the number of years of automotive experience our team has, and what was it, 258 years or something?
It was 258 years just inside my instruction team.
Yeah,
My
just inside your
instructors were
instruction
like
team
had 250 or more years of experience.
of accumulated
Yeah.
experience. And you know what we're all talking about here, Tony, is another key point in leadership, and that's courage.
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
Courage of your conviction.
Absolutely true. And it's easier to be courageous when you have a team with you
Yeah.
who will help you.
And it's
That's
easy to be courageous when things are going well. The trick is, can you be courageous when things aren't going well?
right. I would totally agree with that. Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So courage is another key point of all great leaders. And once again, you look through history, you study great leaders throughout history, and they were very courageous.
Mhm.
You know,
Absolutely.
yeah,
It is, I always tell the clients I work with that, if you, when you decided you're going to become an owner of a small business in America, there must have been some intrinsic courage there because, the average person in America, not to like disparage employees. I mean, I love employees. I happen to be one. But I'll tell you, there's a certain kind of person that says, you know what, I think I'd like to do my own thing. And when they decide to do that, there's a special type of personality that decides to take on that task of wanting to be a small business owner. And there's nobody I admire more than our clients. These people they're
they are
decent,
courageous.
courageous, decent people who want to make something better for themselves, their family, their team, and the community. Uh, I don't know. I just can't speak highly enough of a person who would want to start a small business and do that. It's very, very courageous thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. Tony, we're bumping up against the hour. We better do our station break.
Yeah,
You've
let's
got some
do it.
announcements,
I do. You'd already mentioned this, that Mark's going to be with us next week. After Mark, well, let me mention this first. Um, if you're out there and you're going to be at the Northeast Trade Show in New Jersey next weekend, don't miss Jim Saley. He's one of our master instructors. He's going to be delivering a workshop there called The Art of Leadership. So if you're going to go to that trade show, please go check him out. It'll be on Sunday, 3/16.
right,
That's when
in
it's
New
going to
Jersey.
happen in New Jersey. I don't have the specifics on, but it's a trade show there for our industry. So go if you're going, try to track him down. Of course, on March 21st, Deanna Cole is going to be on the show. And we're going to talk about her ability to lead, and she's a phenomenal leader. And
Yeah,
she's also one of my instructors, but she runs a very good shop in
Van Cleve,
Mississippi,
Mississippi,
Van Cleve. That's right. And then we're going to
the
have
teeming metropolis of Van Cleve.
yes, we're going to have one of my favorite people in the world, Rich Gregg, from Essential Auto Service. The first time I met him, we were in Chicago doing a control in the front workshop, and we both discovered we were both big blues fans. And so a Saturday night, we hit Halsted Street and caught a few shows. It was really great.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is there anything else we should talk about? Is there any
Well,
other
there is
announcements?
a webinar coming up
Oh,
too
the
on
webinar. I
leadership.
knew I was forgetting something.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's going to be hosted by two of our great people.
yes, Aircon and John. Eric, we like to call him Aircon Oz, and he runs our SBA unit. And we're going to have John Dowda. He's one of our great consultants, and he also does some instruction for me as well. He will be they will be doing the webinar on, I believe that's, and someone's going to yell at me if I get the date wrong. It's March 26th. Yes, March 26th. A leadership that works. And anything that you were wondering about that we didn't get to in this show is going to be covered, and even the things that we talked about, because we only had a half hour, right?
Yeah.
So the stuff that we've just kind of grazed on, they're going to dig pretty deep on.
Yeah.
So and those
And that
guys are
webinar, Tony, is open to everybody. It's not just Drive. It's open to
that's
all shop owners.
all shop owners. That's right. And so there should be a link in the chat. I'm going to have a look there and double check.
Yeah,
But
I'm sure
yeah,
I'm sure Brittany has put a link in the Facebook
yep,
for that.
and yep. So those are, I don't think I missed anything else. Obviously, we're going to be doing Dry Facebook Live all through the month, so we'll mention more things next Friday. But yeah, for sure, come check us out next Friday when we have mobile
Yep.
Mark Granum.
Well, there you go. Well, we're up against the hour, Tony. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I hope you found this entertaining or at least interesting. And from all of us at Drive Facebook Live, I wish you a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.